Hey guys, this is Lurkin from Mobalytics, and Fireball's really strong. Let's go Lilith. It's been a long day. Considering where Fireball's been in the past and just how terrible it's been, this is amazing. Is this going to be an absolute top S plus tier meta boss killer? No. But the second that you get Illuminators and Staff of Endless Rage, it's almost there. Like, its strength is there because of just how strong the staff is, just how amazing the affixes are. Same with Illuminators and the +2 mana when Fireball explodes. It's like it has Prodigy built in. This has everything off the rip. What more? Like, it's perfect. It's if you can get Illuminators and Staff of Endless Rage like pretty early in your journey, you're just set. Immediately switch from whatever leveling build you're doing or whatever thing you're doing. Just play it until you get 100, and then you can maybe switch to something a little stronger. Alright, I'm gonna have to focus up here. It's clutch time. Come on, little tiger. Come with me. Done this enough times. He's gonna try and suck me in. Not today. Okay. Quite the move. And that was actually first try. I think I had kind of a zen been up for 24 hours moment there, but let's go over the gear just to show you that like you don't need crazy gear to do all this. So I am using a Godslayer because I don't have Shaco yet, despite 20 plus Tormented Duriel runs. You're just going to want like a concentration chest, and this guide is going to differ from the planner because it's the first day. I'm just throwing it together. This is what I have, and I'm making the best of it. So you will probably want like a mana per second chest, and then if you don't have Shaco, you probably want this to solve your armor, and then you can either take max life or int, and then like any defensive temper and lucky hit chance to freeze, stun, do whatever is fine. Next, a crux of the build is the Illuminators. It's got crit chance, it's got fireball attack speed. Fireball attack speed is really nice because it does not share the same bucket with the attack speed affixes like you have on rings, and it does not share the same bucket as Ancient Flame. So when you do end up getting Starless and stuff, you're really not going to have issues if you get 50. If you get 50% attack speed out of these two rings, and you have the 50 from Ancient Flame, because this is the second bucket that's shared with stuff like Accelerating and Unstable Currents. Next is Tobalt's Will, 20% damage on pants. It's 20% damage on pants. Next, we do take Asu's Heirloom. In most of my builds, I take Asu's Heirloom. As you just saw with Lilith, the move speed's really nice. It helps get through town, and they're now buffed, and you get 40% critical strike chance, and they have a nice crit damage roll. Next is Staff of Endless Rage. This thing is an absolute powerhouse. I always used to meme on it until one day a few seasons ago, I did the math on it, and even back then, before it got buffed, I was like, this thing is actually crazy. It's a lot of damage. It used to rival damage aspects, but its whole issue was always that it didn't have good affixes, and now it does. It's got 170 fire damage, a very large intelligence roll, uh, fireball, fireball projectile speed, which is actually pretty nice. It makes the build play really fast. At first, when I saw that, I was like, oh, it's not damage. And then when you actually play it, if you played Fireball before, it used to be really slow. Let's put this on. Sorry, it's been a long day. All right, so that's really nice. Come on, let me put this back on. All right, so then the chance for Fireball projectiles to cast twice is amazing. You can get this to 100% if the minimum roll that you need is a 69% at base, and then when you masterwork it, If you don't get any 25% masterwork hits on 4, 8, or 12, it will go to 100% and you're all set. Anything over 100 does nothing. And then lastly is the ranks of the fireball. You can get up to 16 ranks on this thing if it's greater or fixed, and if you triple masterwork it. And then every third cast of fireball launches 2 extra projectiles. So let's just do this right here, and a bunch of fireballs come out. It's great, and it does 90% more damage. Next, we'll do. So for starting off, you're going to want Tal Rasha. It's mainly because you don't have a lot of cooldown, and it's got a huge non-physical roll. It lets you hit those Searing Heat and Frigid Fate caps really easily. It's 60% damage. It's got cooldown. It's just amazing right now. I end up dropping it later, which I'll explain after, because it's sort of the odd man out in my setup. Next is an Ancient Flame Ring. It's 50% attack speed, when combined with Asu's Ferocity, the passive. 50% attack speed. And typically on this, you'd probably just want something like int and attack speed, and then if you need crit chance, you take crit, or if you don't, you could take something else. Lastly is the amulet. Ideally on the amulet, you really just want Devouring Blaze and probably crit chance. And then the last one's really up to you. You could take cooldown or Conjuration Mastery. Like, I know everyone's dream amulet a lot of these days is Devouring Blaze and Conjuration Mastery, and then plus whatever third stat their build needs, which is usually crit chance, cooldown, or attack speed. But that's really hard to get. So just go for Dev Blaze and see what else you can get on there. It's really not that picky. The season's pretty easy. Everything feels pretty nice. Gear demands aren't as high. And on the amulet, and now back to our amulet. The aspect on this that you're going to want is 3 curses. It's the strongest aspect that Fireball has at its disposal. It's 60 on the amulet. It's 60% critical strike damage, double against healthy targets. This really helps on that initial attack, especially in like mid-level content. You're really just gonna one-tap everything, and it makes the build play clean. Now later along, what I do is I end up dropping Tal Rasha for Starless, the same way we dropped in Season 4, we dropped Starless for Tal Rasha. In Season 4, we needed a lot of cooldown for Permanent Flame Shield. And now we don't, because when you get Harlequin Crest, it has 20% cooldown innately, and you can get it up to 44%. 54% if you have a greater affix. So the key thing here is, last season we wanted the attack speed ring. I still want it. I still want this attack speed ring with Ancient Flame. And now the choice becomes, do I want Tal Rasha for a little bit of cooldown and 60% damage and some non-physical, or do I want Starless for 50% damage, 50% resource cost reduction, a ton of attack speed, a ton of crit chance, and ranks the core? The choice is clear. If you have to choose between a 60% Tal Rasha and a 50% Starless, and you spend mana, use crit chance, and want attack speed, it's always going to be Starless. So Tal Rasha becomes the odd man out, and Starless swoops in, and we keep the attack speed ring for the same reasons we have in the past. Okay, now for this run, I will actually be using Fireball enchantment. My gear's not quite up to snuff for how I would like it. I really want to just blast through the mobbing section, and the boss isn't going to take me 8 minutes, so I don't think I'm going to need Iceblade enchantment, so we're just going to go have some fun with the Fireball enchantment. You can swap it on a whim, not in the pit, but outside of the pit, you can swap it on a whim and have some fun with it. Back in the pit, man. It's nice to take a month off from the game and not be in this shit. Alright, so basically, yeah, you just evade around casting, and everything blows up. It's funny. Whenever I'm mobbing, I wish I had Fireball enchantment, and whenever I'm bossing, I wish I had Iceblade enchantment, but I just want to tear through these mobs right now. And so obviously, once you get all your Ubers, this build's going to get quite a bit stronger. Once you get all your Masterworks, everything all set up, it's going to get better. But the build's really strong at base, like I mentioned before. So it's just nice. It's not a super, I don't know, so there's so many builds out there nowadays, and like especially last season where like the gear requirements were so incredibly high. Like the permanent flame shield, just to make them work for the average player, it's just like they would try to make it work, and they'd brick their build because I don't know. But I like Fireball because it's just good off the rip. As you can see, it's tanky enough to take some hits from some snakes that like to go unstoppable and run at you. Grab this guy. So I mentioned Ice Blades in the build. Ice Armor is obviously to keep you alive. Teleport for movement, DR, Flame Shield, so that the bosses don't get the stacks on you. And Lightning Spear is your primary way of making enemies vulnerable, so you typically take it. We're going to grab that. We'll typically cast it right before we go into attack. And now, with the enhanced Lightning Spear node, it always casts 2, so that's super nice. And if 101's too much for you to farm, like at your current gear level, just drop down. 81s, 91s, they get so much easier, like every few pit levels it gets so much easier. It's just like 101 is just the goal. But if you don't have the time and you don't have the crazy gear, or I don't know, this game just can be kind of hard sometimes. You can't really see the ground. So sometimes you just die to a lot of explosions. If you're having trouble, just drop down a couple tiers. It's fine, man. You'll get there. I think this season I'm taking a much more chill and like casual approach to everything, because I don't know, we did the pit pushing. I'm just kind of over it, man. Just want to make a fun build, have some fun, enjoy it. So to get optimal boss damage, I haven't quite figured out where you want to stand, but it's somewhere in this range so that the fireballs hit it. So that the multiple bounces hit it at once. So I know not the best boss damage currently, but it gets better as your gear gets better, as you get your masterworks. My glyphs right now are only there. I do have all level 15 glyphs, and it's a pretty damage focused board. But as the glyphs get a little higher, you know, I'll pump out another 20% damage or so from the extra additive, etc. Stuff like that. So it'll all come together, man. Oh, we got Lillith. Let's dodge her. This is why we kept Flame Shield. Get a little dicey. And honestly, this isn't too terrible for just like a... I know it looks nice, but just sort of like an out-of-the-box build that just has like a couple uniques from some of the easier bosses to get and like a couple pieces. So I really like it. I think it's been fun. This is probably... The second I hit level like 60 or 70, I happen to get Illuminators and Endless Rage pretty quick, just like in short succession, and I immediately switched to it, and I just fell in love with the build. And next, I think I'll show you some Infernal Horde content, and you can kind of end with that, just having a blast, having some fun. Alright, sound was a little muffed on some of my group runs, so now I'm just doing a T5 alone. I typically run T6s in groups, T5s if we're just feeling like chilling. Currently, once we get better gear, you know, things will change. But no luck on the Uber uniques, but let's try and rip this one out. Infernal Hordes have been really nice. The loot's great, the XP's great. It's just, I really like these a lot more than Nightmare Dungeons, and I'm liking these a lot more than Pit. Pit's very boring to me at this point. And once you get to high enough tiers, you can open the materials chest, and you will get... At first you'll get Obusite, and then like tier 3 or 4 you'll start to get Ingolith, and then eventually you'll get Neath Iron. They did give us ways to level up our gear besides Pit, so basically you could go the entire season without playing Pit. You could just play Hordes. Get all your gear to 8 out of 12, get in some grooves, start to do the one that gives you Neath Iron. I still think farming 101s will probably be the fastest method. Unless you're able to get, I don't know, unless... At the point that you're able to get a ton of Neath Iron from this, you're probably going to be already Giga geared. I want Aether events. Maybe we'll try and spec into Hellborns into here so we can see some elite action. And the cool thing about this season too is they finally the seasonal thing in Zarbanet, Mother's Blessing or whatever that's called. It now, sorry, I'm like zoning out. I'm so tired. You get all these little the mother's gift. That's what it's called. Sorry. All right, so we are just jamming a T5 right now. I like to do these alone, sometimes in groups. I always usually group to do these, but since I'm filming, I'll do it alone so they don't have to hear me talk. And you can actually see how my build is performing in it. But T5s get absolutely folded. T6s also, get folded. The bosses are a little tankier. The bigger thing is they hurt really bad, and with all the enemies targeting you, it can get a little out of hand, especially because there are ballistas here. Alright, so we did... We'll get more Aether events. Just kind of take stacking buffs to try and get Aether, like maybe you spec into the Soul Spire things, or you spec into the Aetheric Masses, or you try and stack a bunch of buffs with the Hellborns. That way each round, like, you'll get more and more Aether from the buffs. So there's a bit of strategy to it. I think it's pretty cool. It's good to remember, like, what ones you picked earlier and just, like, keep trying to spec into it, because if you pick, like, if you stack them correctly, you can end up getting, like, 100 more Aether than you did in the previous run. Like, sometimes we'll get 330, other times we've gotten, like, 250. Like you see an Aether event, try and pop over to it, handle whatever it is. Those are the Hellborns, they get folded. Alright, so we picked a Hellborn once, so I think we'll just keep picking Hellborn. And we'll just keep trying to get him. There we go, caught in between two ballistas. Don't make me look bad for YouTube, please. Nice that your pet can pick up all that stuff too. Makes it a bit easier. I do like the masses the most because they just die the quickest. You don't have to sit there and do anything in it. Honestly, not terrible damage. I think super endgame Fireball will probably end up wanting to run Lucian. Then you're gonna need all the bells and whistles. You're gonna need Starless. You probably end up having to drop the attack speed ring for Talrasha because you'll need the cooldown because Lucian doesn't have any. But we don't have that much cooldown on this build, and we're doing okay. All right, can we get more Hellborns? Soul Spires. So I think Aether events. Fireball enchant is doing work right now. And alright, let's just enjoy the gameplay. Some decent damage, 4 million, 7 million. Some of the smaller hits will be for like a mil. but everything pretty much gets clapped. Just basically whatever can give you more ether without making the run too dangerous that it kills you. Especially the council buffs. The council is the bosses that spawn at the end, I believe, and they can get a little brutal. Probably won't for this run, but once the tiers start to get high. Diablo likes to make the bosses real tanky. And litter the room with ground effects that you can't see, especially when you're casting a trillion fireballs. If I wanted to be more of a tank, I could probably drop this Godslayer and put Ever Living. That would be pretty good for now. And I wasn't paying attention, and I got nuked. You know, it happens, but we've got some pretty good Aether right now. We're at 327, so I must have picked good buffs, and that's probably why I got nuked, because I picked a bunch of normal mobs deal, 25% damage a few times, and just like right there, it can get a little out of hand. All right, we got an Infernal Demon has your scent. He may seem a little scary, but we'll be all right. It's usually, I think it's a butcher. I'm waiting for him. Come on, buddy. There he is. He's not that scary, but I'm gonna need to get my cooldowns. It's a lot nicer when you have multiple people here. He really gets folded, but once I get Flame Shield, he's gonna go down. Alright, keep alive, and we got Flame Shield. Now we can get him. See, nothing too crazy. Like I said, you're gonna want to group for these. It makes everything a lot easier. I'm definitely sweating a lot harder doing this and having to somewhat pay attention than I do when enemies shoot at 3 other people, besides myself, because I got I got a bunch of ballistas locked onto me, and I'm just praying here. Once I get Harlequin Crest and Tyrell's materials, things should get a lot better. And yeah, I got a lot of Aether. That's the most Aether I've ever got. 423. Whoa-wee. Alright, oh, I still have Ice Blade enchant on. I'm surprised I got that much. Normally I have Fireball enchant on. Alright, well, just goes to show you don't necessarily mean it. And if you forget to switch off, it's not that big of a deal. Flame Shield, chase him down. I'm not sure the best strategy for these guys. I don't know if there's some ramping might be some ramping mechanic that as you kill them, the last one gets more dangerous. So sometimes it could be beneficial to like get them all low and try and kill them at the same time. But for this sort of level, for my gear, it doesn't really matter too much. And we have 440. So let's just open this, see what kind of gear we get. Innocuous. So you get some uniques, some GAs from here. You can open up these, and I'm out of space. So let's. Alright, so you get some good gear from there too. Let's see what kind of stuff we get from this. Alright, so you get 20 Inglith from this tier 5. So we're just gonna blast this open, and then let's show what it looks like. How much do I have left? 253? Oh jeez. Hold on a second. It's a lot of loot. It's a lot of stuff. This is actually pretty good for the ruby fragments, so you can actually get all your all your gems and stuff. Alright, so we are down to 73. So let's see how much gold we get from 73. We got about 73 million. And we go to about 80. So, about 1 million per 10. Not too bad. I am drowning. You end up drowning in compasses and abyssal scrolls, which is totally fine in my opinion. Let's drop these, and that's it for this. And if you're having an issue getting the scrolls, usually what happens is, so you did your seasonal quest, and then you thought you were done, and all you had left was these priority quests. But there's this one quest, I forget exactly what it's called, but if you click on it, it'll be some homie over here. You got to go talk to him, and then you do like a dungeon, and then he takes you somewhere else, I think up here, and you do like a way bigger dungeon that's actually really cool and long, and then you get a new quest that says use an infernal compass. And you don't even actually have to use the infernal compass. The second that you get that quest, we started getting compasses dropped from nightmare dungeons and hell tides, and basically every single one nightmare dungeon that we did, we were getting an infernal compass. All right, so that's my fireball build. A little bit of intro to the season. Infernal hordes are great. I still have to level my glyphs to 21, and I just don't really want to do it. I might just keep them at 15. All right, I'll catch you guys.